I'm the B-Man, and for today's episode, we're going to take a look at one of the most critically acclaimed and influential first-person RPGs of the late 90s, System Shock 2. System Shock 2 was developed by Looking Glass Studios and Irrational Games, who would later create the Bioshock series, the spiritual successor to System Shock. Now, Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite are among one of my favorite first-person shooters of all time, and I've heard a lot of great things about System Shock, so I decided to give System Shock 2 a play. The story of System Shock 2 takes place on a spaceship called the Von Braun. You play as a recently recruited soldier, and after you awake from cryosleep, you discover that the ship has gone into complete disarray with deformed hybrids and robots attacking everyone. Guided by one of the survivors, Dr. Jazz Polito, you have to make your way through the ship, fighting the enemies you encounter and stop the source of the threat. Right off the bat, the atmosphere in the game is very spooky. Even though the graphics may not look quite as good today, it's the lighting and environmental details that really sells it. And when you combine it with the sound of the ship humming as you walk through the halls, it makes it feel like you're inhabiting the ship. The way the dead people are laid and how certain structures are in disrepair, that in itself tells a story of what might have happened previously. The story is a very simple premise that has a couple of twists and turns that makes it very interesting, and you can learn more about the inhabitants of the ship by listening to their audio diaries that give background about what has been going on.
I'm so close to Rebecca, it's killing me. I'm spending some time with crew members who said they saw her. They told me they'd help me find her if I help them set up this transmitter. They're set on saving the Earth. I just want Rebecca. Then I'll take care of the Earth.
I'll admit, when I first played it as a teenager, I didn't exactly enjoy it, as it was very difficult to play through and I ended up wasting a lot of my resources. But now that I've played it again as an adult, I actually think it's very good. At a first glance, it looks like a typical first-person shooter, but it's a lot more complex and plays a little more like an RPG. You start by choosing one of 3 different classes, with each focusing on a particular set of skills. As you complete mission objectives, you gain cybernetic modules, which is currency you use to upgrade your abilities in whatever playstyle you want to go with, whether it be hacking, researching, leveling up a certain weapon skill, along with many other attributes. Combat can be very difficult at first, as you have very little ammunition in whatever weapon you start with, and you're stuck with hitting guys with a wrench in the early parts of the game. Firing your weapons can feel a bit static and weak, as your enemies can take more ammunition than necessary. But as you go through the game, you'll gain resources and you can take out the enemies with more powerful weapons. You also have to be very careful of how much you use the weapon, as they can deteriorate the more you use them, so it's also important to have repair tools to use. Usually you'd think that would be annoying, but you get used to it after a while, and it's a pretty cool mechanic. You also have a power called Psi, which are superhuman abilities that let you shoot freeze blasts at enemies, levitate objects towards you, or help you shut off alarms. This has the most depth and has a great amount of variety of abilities to level up. This is a game where exploration is very important, as you'll be trying to complete various objectives, as well as finding new weapons, health kits, cyber modules, or extra ammunition for your weapons. Even the audio diaries you find will sometimes give you combination numbers for a locked door or a storage room. There's also a great amount of variety of enemies, from hybrids that try to kill you with wrenches, shotguns, or grenades, very creepy looking cyborg women, robots of different variants, even to something you don't expect to come across, like monkeys. Some of these enemies require a certain weapon or ammunition type to take down, so it does a good job of having you prioritize which weapon to use against a certain enemy. The most annoying enemy in the game, however, is the Psi Reavers, that hover around and shoot purple beams at you. If you kill one, another will respawn in its place a few seconds later, and they never stop. The only way to permanently get rid of them is to shoot the brain hose so they will stop respawning. While System Shock 2 is a very good game, there are a few things that I feel hold it back from being a great one. It can be very frustrating in certain places, as there are certain sections where you're either low on health with no med hypos or low on ammunition, and there are two hybrids along with 3 or 4 machine gun or rocket turrets firing right in your direction, and there's almost nothing you can do about it. One example is that during some of the later levels, you're going through these tunnels and you've got several rumblers and Psy Reavers that keep respawning. I mean, it's a hell of a lot of enemies to take on. And even if you have enough ammunition to take some out, it doesn't change the fact that they'll keep on coming until you run out of med hypos, ammunition, and they kill you in just a couple of hits. Another part that I think they could have done a little better is researching items. Whenever you want to use a certain item, you would go to a chemical store in a certain part of the ship and then use specific chemicals to research the item. The main problem I have is that it's a little bit too time consuming, as certain chemicals are on a different floor of the ship and you end up backtracking just to get the other chemical. Overall, I do recommend you pick this game up, whether it be on Steam or GOG, it's worth having. But keep in mind that it is a very challenging and at times very frustrating game, and there are a few gameplay features that I don't think are particularly great in my opinion. But once you understand the other mechanics and how things work, it's really a fun and intense experience and very rewarding in the long run. I give this game an 8 out of 10. I'm the B-Man, thanks for watching.